Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Bragg on This is Bragging Rights, and I'm excited to have Leslie M with us today on the show. And we're going to talk about swagger. And I just love saying the word swagger. It's one of those words that gives me power just to say the word swagger. So, yeah, Leslie, let's get into it. You are a woman of so many things. So I could go on and on and on about your titles and accolades, but you want to be called right now a swagger coach.
Yep.
What does it mean?
Well, in my years of experience, so I own a corporate training company. I spent years and years and years in top tier organizations all around the world. So multiple levels, multiple cultures, multiple companies. And I discovered one common trait, regardless of the subject matter that I was training, whether it was presentation skills or leadership or communication or creativity, is that human beings, especially in the corporate world, do not somehow believe that they are good enough, that they don't have what it takes to be everything that they have dreamed of. And once I recognized that about humanity, it was my huge aha. And I started to layer that on top of everything that I did, because that was the key to success. Once people believed that they were capable of anything and that all they had to do was to manifest their real selves and hold on to it in the face of all the psychological crap that was going to come for it, regardless of situation or environment, suddenly they discovered that their authenticity was their superpower, their uniqueness. It was their differentiator. And they stopped taking, can I swear? Are we agreeing that they stopped taking shit from people and started to trust themselves. You know, that self-belief is so critical because it's freaking unshakable. Once you have it, you know, it's unshakable. And for the record, swagger, in my opinion, in my definition of it, is not that show-offy, arrogant, cocky thing, you know, that's very male-associated, and it's very, you know, it's much more that unshakable sense of who you are. And you go, nah, you cannot change me. I don't care what you say.
I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm not sure if our audience is hearing this, but I'm hearing feedback and some like interference. And what you're saying is so valuable. So I'm not sure, is anyone else hearing some feedback? We'd love to hear from you in the comments, or if you just want to adjust something really quickly, because it's that feedback that's there right now. So, but while she's adjusting, what I'd love to know, and I'm just going to pull up my iPad and here, we'd love to know where you are from in the world, in the audience, and so that you are joining us and asking questions of Leslie, because I also know she has a huge following who reached out to me and said, oh my goodness, my worlds are colliding. You're meeting Leslie. It's so great. So let's just start with, minor feedback. Yeah, so hopefully we have that rectified, and hopefully we don't have to pause again to fix that. But if we do, we do. It's so great to see Jennifer here, and yeah, Rosa, a little fuzzy feedback feeling going on there. So
how about now? Is this better?
Now you sound great. Amazing.
Okay. But we're putting away the fancy pantsy microphone and we're relying on the computer.
Okay, I know. And I don't know what it is. I have my Yeti, my Bluetooth. It's supposed to be like the greatest thing, and we both had the same technical issues today. And I think that's part of it. We have to show up sometimes as we are, and I know I put in the LinkedIn comments, sometimes we're hot messes, but I do want to invite the audience to join us in the conversation if you are a hot mess, if you feel sometimes that you know you're an expert, you know you're good, but for some reason you don't show it or don't want to just go over that hurdle, that mental hurdle, let us know. We also want to know where in the world you're from, so all those things I'm asking from you. And Leslie she's a dynamo, and she's real, and she will swear. And you know her already, so it's awesome.
Fact.
So can you just go over a little bit about, fancy pantsy microphones with the death of us in COVID? Yes. So, I love so much of what you said, but we try to show up and we're trying to be so amazing and awesome. And we are deeply, but we just can't believe it ourselves. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think what happens is over time, and it's rooted, very often it's rooted in the stuff that we heard when we were young. You know, the stuff that we heard that have created the mental tapes that continue to play over time. And they they pick up speed and they pick up intensity, and the challenges that we face get attached to those old memories, those old self-beliefs, those self-limiting beliefs, and they turn into something huge by the time we're adults. So if someone makes a crappy comment to us in a meeting, all of a sudden we're 6 years old and we were being bullied, or our parents, for their best intentions, their voice rings true, like, Leslie, you should be more quiet. We go, oh shit, that's that voice again. And so it takes on all of this power that it doesn't really have, because we're not those people anymore, but we don't have new tapes for the brain to play. So the way that I see it is that we get the real us, the part that when we're alone, or when we're with the people who we trust and who have always been kind and gentle with us, that real us that comes out gets trapped behind these layers. I have this visual model that I use of the concentric circles of blockers, I call them. And that the real us has to navigate and negotiate through those blockers every time we want to be heard. And thus our truth gets the shit kicked out of it progressively by each of those layers. And so what is a roar on the inside, the roar of our truth and our attention and our self-belief, by the time it runs that American Ninja style gauntlet to move through all of those psychological layers, it's a little squeak by the time it gets out into the world. And we're on the inside, we're roaring, and on the outside, we're squeaky.
Yeah, I'm just hearing feedback again. Can you let us know if you're hearing feedback again, anyone? And if you're hearing feedback just on there goes the fuzzy audio. Yeah. Oh, you're saying such gold, and we're just getting away with the gold, and I love what you're saying.
Okay, on microphone. Let's try that.
Yeah. I'm just gonna pause. I'm just gonna mute. I think we lost her for a second, so I will just carry us on for a second longer, because fortunately. Yeah, she's going to, thanks everyone for letting us know the feedback is happening again. And she's going to come right back in and we'll carry on the show, but I think she might be switching computers. So where do you sit? Where are you when things go? I commented on LinkedIn, I said about how sometimes you secretly feel like we're a hot mess and that we don't really want the world to know, but aren't we all almost always a hot mess? There's always something going on. When I go to meetings, Toronto, we have Bay and King area, and that's the financial district. And you'd see everyone in their dark black jackets, and they would have their nails done. Everyone there's almost a cookie cutter. And I know so many of my friends are from there, and I know you're not cookie cutter, but there is an image of how you have to show up day in and day out, isn't there? Okay, thank you more for the feedback information. Yeah. Hi, Leslie.
How are we doing now?
Oh, it still has it. You changed computers?
No. Let me just work on this.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry about this, guys. This sucks. Hold on. But this is real life. This is what happens. All right.
You know what?
It's what
we talked about too. We have so many balls in the air. Hi, Deb. Nice to see you too. Nice to see Rosa. Definitely nice to see some familiar faces. And I'm so glad my network knows more people in their networks too. Sarah and Anastasia, thank you. Glad you're joining us. Tanya or Tanya, however you prefer. Leanne, great to see you. Mary, I'm glad you're here on LinkedIn and just discovering how it works. And she's in Toronto. Great. Yeah, Jennifer, try removing all your tech. And Leslie, I didn't know this, but Leslie had a background in TV too, just like mine. So, well, not just like mine, but similar. So she knows tech. She knows this stuff.
Oh yeah. Now let's see. I changed to my headphones mic.
You sound good to me. Yeah. Does she sound good to you in the audience? Can we have a comment from everyone?
Can we have a big up?
Oh, and Mary, you know what? I love this from Mary. I sometimes speak out and then delete the message. Yeah.
That's like a psychological delete, That really is. That's the insecurity layer talking. That's the what if. What if? Ooh, what if? But the thing is, what if you don't? What if you don't? I always think the repercussions of not speaking up are so much greater than the repercussions of speaking up. And you can't learn how to do it until you do it. Right? And if there are repercussions, you face the repercussions and you advocate for yourself. The key to it is truth, intention, and self-belief. You must speak your truth. Now, truth can be a fuzzy concept because your truth is your own and you have to consider it through the lens of other people, but it's still your truth, right? Because once you start censoring yourself, who decides what is worthy of censorship and what isn't? So you have to speak your truth, but the intention is the key. If your intention is to be an asshole, then you're going to get what you deserve. But if your intention is to serve the greater good, to help in some way, to advocate for yourself, then you get a free pass. Right? You absolutely get a free pass because they look, if my intention is good and other people don't like my truth, that is their problem. It's not my problem. It's not on me.
And I think
Because
you'd be surprised too of how many people want to say that truth, but they just are also deleting what they want to say in the world too. Especially if you have great values and you want to put it out in the world, but you're timid. And that's again sort of what I was getting to with my point about everyone in downtown Toronto often looks the same in the winter, black jackets, and we're going on our way. We don't want to stand out sometimes or put our truth out there and wear, bright red and purple jacket to help the dull days of winter, where sometimes we do need to make that comment, tell our truth, wear something bright, wear our hair in a different way than other people. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean we all have to fall in line. We have to show up as real.
Well, the irony is that we all have aspirations and dreams. We all have places that we want to get. And the irony is that if we don't stand out, if we don't differentiate, we will not get noticed. And if we don't get noticed, we can't possibly achieve our dreams, whether it's because someone needs to notice us in order to give us the opportunity, or whether the world needs to notice us if we're entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. But we need to be noticed. And if all we're doing is assimilating into the hive mind of our organization, then we're the same as everybody else. We will not get noticed, right? And we are not for everyone. There will always be people who don't dig you, always. And as we used to say, when I worked in advertising, if you try to create a message that appeals to everyone, you will by definition appeal to no one. You have to differentiate yourself and then find your tribe. Listen, if your intention is good and you are speaking your truth to contribute in some meaningful way, and you keep getting, the smackdown, you may be in the wrong place. You may have the wrong boss. You may be in the wrong culture. You may be in the wrong environment. And this is not a rehearsal, this life that we get. You get one go around the carousel, one go. And if you are not in a place that values your truth and your contribution, or you're in a culture that does not value your truth or contribution, you're not in prison. You need to find somewhere else to be so that you can be yourself. It's there. I meet so many people who've been waiting for their lives to start, waiting and waiting. And I go, what are you waiting for? And if that's the case, what is the worst thing that could happen? If you are unhappy where you are because you feel like your authenticity is being suppressed, then you have nothing to lose by changing the game. Because if they don't accept it, for a fact that you need to be somewhere else. That is the true indicator of, am I in the right place, or do I need to find my people, my tribe?
And sometimes it's that risk where you do leave a job or you get fired and then you do something that you were really truly meant to do because you're able to have that space to go a little bit further and do different things. So Mary, she's afraid to wander into the minefields. I hope Leslie's thinking there just gave you that, you have to go for it and not worry about the minefields, and maybe even change up the word minefield or that kind of.
Yes. I don't know why the perception that there is a minefield, that's a psychological trap that you're creating. That's the story that you're telling yourself. What if there's not? What if there's just daisies in the field? And in your mind, there's a sign that says, mines ahead. But the truth is, there's none. And if you could dance through the field and you would be fine. You ask everyone who's ever made a change in their life, do you regret making that change? Everybody will tell you, that was the best thing to do. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had taken that risk because, the old adage, no risk, no reward. It is, the thing is, you have to ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen? I play a game with people that I work with, and I get them to pick a scenario that they find scary. I don't know, it could be I'm speaking up in a meeting, it could be I'm doing a presentation, it could be I'm asking for a raise, it could be, whatever it is. And I ask them to take me through minute by minute of that situation and talk me through what they imagine happening. What's the worst thing that can happen? So, and I call the game, and then what? So I go into the office, I sit down in front of my boss. Okay, and then what? I broach the subject. I say that I think I'm valuable and I'm really deserving of a raise. Okay, and then what? Well, my boss says, we've got some financial challenges. Anyway, so on and so on and so on. I get them to take minute by minute. Now, often when people tell me their stories, they end up homeless on the street. That's the end of the story. Homeless on the street. And then I say, okay, so let's now move backwards and you tell me the point at which this story ceased to be realistic. And it's usually at a place that is so benign. It's so banal. And my boss says, I can't offer that to you right now. Like that's the worst thing that can happen, but I will consider it in the future. Like we are not our history. We are the stories that we tell ourselves. And if we tell ourselves a story of opportunity and positivity and that things will come to us and that we are deserving of things, we will become that. In fact, we probably already are. And, but we will be that. But if we keep telling ourselves the story of, I'm just going to get in trouble and I'm going to get a smackdown and there's a minefield and there bad things could happen, these are the tapes, the mental tapes that are being played in your head. And I have huge empathy for those tapes. I have those tapes. We all have those tapes. The trick is, though, that you have to replace that recording with something else. You can't just stop listening to those mental tapes. That's your psyche talking. That's your historical, psychological baggage talking. And so we need to replace it with things that are true and factual of now and today. Yeah. So that when that little 5-year-old, girl or boy voice comes in, you can go, I don't think that's actually factually correct, my friend. Here are the facts to refute that. Because that little voice does not like facts. It likes bullshit. It likes making up stories and dragging you down. But if you refute it with facts, if it says you're not good enough, you go, hey, wait a second. Last year, I was nominated as the most, valuable employee, or I lead a team of 20 people and they all report me as a really positive leader, or collect these facts up for yourself and start using them to record over those tapes because you all have them. I know you all have them. We all do, right? Or else we wouldn't be standing. We'd all be lying down, curled up in a little, fetal ball.
So we have to brag to ourselves and remind ourselves, and that's where you need to have your brag book, or you need to have one of those things where you have a list of all those thank you cards, or pull out the things that people said, hey, you're great in those emails. And a few weeks ago, we had somebody on who has an app for all of that. It's, I'll put it in the show notes again, but
oh yeah,
you have to remember that. And somebody said, make a sparkle book, right? These are all the things I shine on, and then have that when you forget how awesome you are.
So, well, it's the conundrum too is that, when I talked about your truth, intention, and self-belief permeating through those layers, when that little squeak gets out into the world, even if people celebrate your squeak and say, you're awesome and you're amazing, that was so great, that message, that validation has to then make its way back through all of those psychological layers. So it has to run the ninja gauntlet again, and it gets the shit kicked out of it coming back. So what was celebration and validation on the outside, by the time that it gets into us, we have questioned the crap out of it. We've questioned its validity. It's like, no, you've got to allow it to come in its pure form. You got to hear it. When someone says you're great, you got to hear it and put a little notch on your bedpost, and go, I'm great. Yeah, I'm great.
But we deflect. And I wrote a story, a little thing on LinkedIn, and it was about back in my TV news days, somebody asked me for an autograph, and I was like, why would you want my autograph? But the camera person said, wow, that's really rude because they value me and I don't value myself. And so, yes. Then I did. And now I'm not giving out autographs, but I'll give you one if you want one.
I want one.
I want yours in your book.
Okay, let's trade.
But, it's that validation that we do need, but we need to hear it in ourselves and have that, I am great. Put it everywhere that you are to remind yourself of all of your wins. And when someone says that you are great, don't deflect it. don't say no and then give some sort of excuse of why you're not great that day. They think you're amazing. They don't need to know all the baggage that has, you along with it
Well,
that day.
and here's the irony. When someone says you're not great, oh boy, do you believe it. Oh boy, you're like, of course you're right. Of course I'm not great. It's like, what? Why would you believe that over this? These are, my mother used to always say, from whom it comes. That was another thing too, right? You got to be like, because haters go hate. The haters go hate. And haters do not hate on the common people. They don't hate on people who have no power, because there's no purpose to it. And here's the other message that I repeat over and over and over in my book. No one can take your power. No, it's not possible for someone to take your power. You can choose to give it to them, but no one can take your power. I call it the power buffet. And if your power buffet is open, the snackers go come and snack, and they're going to snack because they don't have enough of their own power. So they're going to take some from you. They're going to snack and snack and snack. And at some point, you have to go, the buffet is closed. No more snacking at the buffet. And you do not allow people to come and pick. It's like, like being a French fry that the seagulls are picking over. They want your stuff. They want to deplete you so that they can be more full. But if you don't let them, you remain full. You retain that power,
That's beautiful. Anastasia says your mom was a wise woman. And Deb says, consider the source. Absolutely. When we consider the source, is that someone I really care about and want to talk and hear from? And when you build your brand, when you're doing things, when you're getting swagger, be it in the office environment or online or whatever you're doing, those people, the naysayers, I think Taylor Swift will always have a place in what we do, because they are going to say something, but you have to decide, is that where you are or not? One of my mentors recently, she said, are you playing big or playing small? Oh no, she said, am I bigger than this or smaller than this? And that's, am I bigger than that? Am I smaller? And then where you stand with those comments. So
when I was a teenager, my mother said to me, because I was pretty much this as a teenager. I was a lot of person, and I was not for everyone. I was a lot of person, and still am a lot of person. And I remember I was like 14 years old. I had a mohawk and purple and shaved, and I was living in suburban Montreal, in a Jewish suburban Montreal. I did not fit in any way, shape, or form. And I was lamenting that the boys were not interested in all of this. I was not in the right world, in the right place for that. And I was saying to my mother, maybe I should change. Maybe I should fit in and whatever. She said, look, Leslie, if you don't show up exactly who you are from the first moment, and at some point people are going to figure out who you really are. And if you get rejected at that point, that's devastating, right? But if you show up as you are and people don't like you, you go, meh. Because there's no investment there. Who cares if they don't like you? And she also said, even more wisely, she said, if a guy is too dumb to recognize what an amazing girl you are, what would you want to go with such a dumb guy for anyway? And I apply that rule to, if a company is too dumb to recognize how amazing you are, what do you want to work for such a dumb company anyway? Or if a boss is what do you want to work for such a dumb boss? If they don't get it, if they don't get you, you go find someone who gets you, because we're all entitled to that. You go, girls and boys, and go find someone who gets you.
And you know what? I think now we can't just be better than somebody else. It's not about better, it's being different. And so when you are different by showing up as your real self, then that's what's going to make the difference, because they can see you. You're passionate, you're a little over the top, or you're whatever it is, but they know where you stand. Where if you're trying to hide and be someone else and follow the model that's been set in this world, well, then they can just look to anyone else who looks exactly, sounds exactly the same, because there's nothing differentiating you at all. So different is better than better. I don't have a name here, unfortunately, because the LinkedIn here, it doesn't show, but she says, Leslie, we would have gotten along great. So when we look back,
we still can.
And again, a comment for your mom. Seriously, your mom rocks. So love those comments from everyone. We want to know from you, any questions for our swagger coach, Leslie. She's here to talk to us about swagger, how to really show up as your real self, not worrying about that you are different in the world and that you can show up, and being authentic to yourself. And I think so many people think when you're supposed to be real or authentic, they get really scared on those words.
Well, look, being authentic is not a license to be an asshole. It's not freedom from responsibility or from civility or from professionalism. It's not that. It's about not allowing your environment or your situation to change who you are and to dictate what is your truth. If you've got something to say, you are entitled to say it, just as the people around you are entitled to say it. And if you, when you look at and people who are more senior than you or more accomplished than you, whether you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or work with an organization, and ask yourself, how did they get there? Well, they either got there by playing a political game, or they got there by speaking up and speaking their truth over and over and over again until their contribution was recognized. You know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're out in the world, you know for sure that fundamentally what you have to do is differentiate yourself, right? But if you differentiate yourself and then make yourself very small, you as the representative of your brand ceases to have power. You have to step into that fully. Your brand should be an extension of who you are, regardless of whether it's a product or a service. People will associate you with the thing that you do. You know, my title at Combustion Training was Chief Fire Starter, because that's what I do. I blow shit up. I challenge, and I'm fiery, and I'm unapologetic about that.
That's what audience, can you believe that? Yes. I want to hear some yes. So you blow things up. That's you, for sure.
That's what I do. That's what I do. You know, that's why I wrote my book. I have a book coming out in May 2021 called Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. And it takes people through the steps of how to work through those blockers and how to unleash those drivers of truth, intention, and self-belief. And there's countless stories of thousands of people that I've worked with over the years and their success stories of what happened to them when they took that risk, when they stepped into the perceived minefield, when they made those changes, you know, little by little. And when they started to see the results of it, they went, oh my God, this really works. And their worlds changed for them, because you have to do it. Swagger does not happen overnight. It is a journey, and it is progressive, and you have to keep going out there, and you will have days that it doesn't work. Your swagger will falter. You will feel like crap. You will question yourself, but you pick yourself back up and you say, I have to live my truth. I have to live the swagger, and you go back at it. And you will see progressively, and it won't take that long before you have those catalytic, you know, aha moments where you go, oh my God, this really works. And I've seen it over and over and over again. When I coach people, they say, like, within a month, they're like, my life is starting to become different. I'm like, yes, because that's what happens.
Yeah, Leslie, we had the feedback at the beginning. So Rosa's given us a nice prompt saying, can you share your definition of swagger? Because I just also want to say the word swagger a few more times. But can you share your definition of swagger so that when we think about your book and how awesome it's going to be, that we understand what you're talking about?
So swagger, in my definition, is the manifestation of who you really are, and the ability to hold on to it in the face of all of that psychological crap that's going to come for it, regardless of situation or environment. It's not show-offy. It's not cocky. It's not arrogant. It's not entitled. You can have swagger and be an introvert or an extrovert. You can be quiet. You can be loud. Whatever is real and authentic for you, that's the core of your swagger. And it's the holding on to it that is so critical, not allowing the world to change you.
I love that. That is so good. And I think that's where, you know, swagger, you bring it and it takes time to develop it. I think we all expect everything to happen right away, but we're also dealing with stories that we've been telling from our 5-year-old self that kept us safe, but those aren't the stories of today. And we're also in a really, you know, changing time where rules that were once in place are falling. The old guard is no longer there. We're in a different era on many different levels. So yeah.
Well, I think also that, you know, when we look at what's happening in the world, no one could have imagined the situation that we would have been in a year ago. And if this is not a wake-up call, that this is not a rehearsal, life changes in a heartbeat. It changes in a heartbeat. And none of us want to live with regrets. None of us do. And regretting those opportunities where you could have spoken your truth and you didn't, and regretting all of the risks that you didn't take or all the opportunities you didn't go after, you don't want those to accumulate over time. That's crushing. You know, I know that it's the cliche of saying, you know, on your deathbed, when they say, what do you wish that you did more or less of? You know, everybody says, I wish I had done more of those things, taken more risks, put myself out there more, you know, gone after my dreams and all that kind of stuff. Today is the day. What are you waiting for? You know? And the other thing that my amazing mother taught me, because, she's been the central force of this. She used to say, why not you?
Yes.
Whenever I had a dream, whenever I wish that I could, and I wish my sister too is a very well-known Canadian personality named Erica M. And she and I grew up with this voice that whenever we talked about wanting to do something, anything we wanted, she would say, well, someone has to do that thing. Why not you? Why not you? And that voice still rings in my head anytime I have a dream, because I have tons of dreams that are still unrealized. I always stop for a moment and say, well, why not me? Why not me? And I never find a good answer. Never.
See, I love that. And so some of us were given, well, why would you want to do that when we set our dreams? And it's like, well, like that weighs on you a lot as you go through it. And so you just say, I just have to do it. It's my calling. And so when you deny your calling, that's even worse than the voices, I think, that are saying, why would you want to do that? Why would she want to do that?
Well, remember, that's the voice. Those are those young voices that we grew up with, and all of our parents had the best intentions, but they often repeated the messages that they got from their parents. And everybody lived in a different time than we live, and especially for women who unfortunately grew up with women should temper their expectations, or they should whatever. Those days is gone, my friends. That world does not exist anymore. And women have proven that they can do absolutely anything. And what we bring to the table is very different than what men bring. And in many ways, it gives us an advantage. So it redresses the balance. Men have had opportunities that were easier for them for so long, and we've faced so many challenges. But I think if we take a look at what is valued in the world now, EQ and empathy and compassion and the ability to multitask and relationships and all of those things, those are women things.
They're all women things. They are, for sure. I know we're going to be past 30 minutes, but we had some tech glitches off the beginning. So I hope you'll stay with us for a little longer.
I'll stay.
We do want to still hear from you. If you are watching live, put some questions in. You've heard so many great things from Leslie already, and I love that you're playing along. So Rosa loves what you're saying. She says, boom, love it. Mary's also a fellow Montrealer, so yes, and we all love Montreal, so great place. But I also want to talk a little bit about, at the beginning you talked about, you had some models for us to think about with swagger. There's a visual model. I know we're going to see it in your book when it comes out in May 2021, but just give us a high level of what those mental models, those frameworks that you've built out that we can think of in our visual models as we pull our own swagger out of wherever it is inside of us.
Yeah, it's so helpful to be able to visualize what's happening with your feelings so that you can say, here's where I'm getting blocked. So the outer circle is persona. It's that coat we put on every day, and it's the thing that we wear because we think that that's how we're supposed to show up. We're supposed to walk and talk and behave this way. So we put on this heavy coat of assimilation every single day, because without it, we feel like we're not going to be successful, which leads us to the next layer in, which is ambition. Now, I'm all for ambition, but here's the problem with ambition is if ambition is causing you to climb the ladder and constantly look up and be grasping for that next level, what's happening is you're likely not looking inwards or looking down to the people who follow you. And if you're doing that, you're not going to be successful moving upwards. You have to think about it in terms of being in your place of excellence as opposed to being purely ambitious. Because if you're in your place of excellence, then you have greater likelihood of achieving. So now you have ambition reinforcing persona, because if you want to get those things, you think you have to show up a certain way. Well, why is that? Next layer down is insecurity. Insecurity is all the what ifs. What if I don't walk and talk a certain way? What if I don't keep my head down? What if it's that minefield that we were talking about earlier? It's all the what ifs. It's all those little voices in your head that don't have answers, but have a lot of questions. So we now have insecurity reinforcing ambition, which reinforces persona. Well, what causes insecurity? Next layer in is fear. Fear is the end of the story. What if I don't walk and talk a certain way? Bad things are going to happen to me. It's going to go terribly wrong. This is all the things that you can imagine in that and then what story are driven by fear. It's not real. It's what your brain is telling you contextually you have no experience of, and thus it represents something that is potentially bad. but you don't know for sure, but fear will tell you it's bad. So why? So now we have fear reinforcing insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. And what drives fear? The last layer in and the biggest, thickest castle gates is pain, because pain is proof. Pain says, oh, I tried that one time and it did not go well and it hurt like a bitch and I'm never doing that again. The example I use is if you want to stop someone from touching, the stove, you say let them touch a hot element and they'll never touch the stove again. But wait, hang on. What if the element is not on? What if you're wearing an oven mitt? What if you have some way to deflect the heat and so on and so forth? But if you've experienced it once, it represents something that is true to you, even though the situation or environment may have changed. So pain is the thing that remains closest to us and keeps us trapped. So every time we want to express who we are, we have to navigate through pain, fear, insecurity, ambition, and persona. And each one will take its bite. And so the key is to recognize, where am I getting stuck? Which element of this is the big loud ringing bell that stops me? So if I can get through, pain and through fear, but then insecurity stops me, or when messages come back in, I can get through insecurity, but then I drop, fear is like that moat that I drop into. Those are the places that you need to really work on and start to rationalize with those factual elements, to start creating those bridges across all of the blockers so that your message can start getting fluid in and out. Because what we want at the end of the day is for the validation, for our truth to get out, the validation to get in, and the real us to grow and swell and compress those blockers. Because they're good checks and balances, right? They're little reminders of how to behave in this world, perhaps, of, again, professionalism and integrity and so on and so forth. But they shouldn't stop us. They shouldn't ever stop us. They shouldn't be blocking us.
Wow, that is a great image. And even I was thinking of the circles, and I was thinking of, for me, I was also thinking of the loop, the tapes that we keep telling ourselves from in video days. Back in my day, we had these tapes, and it's like, it is a tape in your head over and over and over again on things too. And as we wrap up, if you have any questions, we're happy to come back onto this and see later. If you're watching on the replay, let us know what you're thinking.
And I see Mary asked, do we have to wait until May 2021? Well, technically you do. But if you go to lesliem.com, you can join my Swagger Squad. And what you're going to get is really exclusive little fits, little sample chapters and little things that I'm giving just to my favorite people. And I have this kind of growing, I'm building swagger tribes, because I think we're all in it together and we need to support each other. So if you come and subscribe, it's not a newsletter. I'm not a big newsletter fan, I got to say. So when there's something special, like a preview of the book, or like special swag, or things that I'm offering only to my subscribers, then you will get notification of that. So come and join at lesliem.com, and you get first look at everything. You're my peeps.
And that's what we do need, though. I'm going to keep you on for a few more things, but that's what we do need. We need our community of, people who will brag for you. And I call the wingman to come up with something better, but we need those swagger people, our squad, our posse, whatever language you actually use that's authentic to you. But we need those people to also send us those, hey, you're awesome notes, to come on our shows and say, hey, this is great. All those things. Not that it was a plug, but we need to have those people around us and make sure that we have really a strong community.
And we need to do that for each other. If you're at work, you need to find allies, people who will stick up for you, people who will celebrate you. I have learned that when you speak well of other people, it does not take anything away from you. When you give credit to someone else, it does not take away from your accomplishments. What it does is it allows them to get filled up, and thus they have more to give, and they will give more back to you. I have found, I know so many incredible people, and it gives me, there's no more joy than celebrating the crap out of them publicly. Whether, sometimes we think, oh, they don't need it. I have a lot of friends who are very public figures and speakers and all that kind of stuff. But I show up and I say, you're fantastic. You're great. I love this, because we all need that. We all deserve it. And we all need to hear it from our people. So look for the people who give you that positive reflection that you can go to, and ask for reassurance and ask for validation, and use that to help fill yourself up, because we are all in it together. All of us. That's part of what, being part of that swagger movement is for.
What a beautiful way to end. Leslie, so I'm going to put your link to your website on here. Can you give us the full, beautiful title of your book that's coming out in May 21? It's Swagger, but there's a bigger title.
Swagger, unleash everything you are and become everything you want.
Right? So good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And if you're not already, come join me on Bragging Rights. It's our community there, and I'm putting up tips. You'll see more interviews like this one with Leslie, and we will definitely have Leslie on again as it gets closer to her launch, and she's drumming up sales, and it's going to be an amazing book that's going to really help a lot of people. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I so appreciate it.